The state of storycraft within comic books, I don't think has ever been as bad as it is today. And I think a lot of that starts with the editors. And today we've got a good example, a senior editor at IDW that's worked at Marvel, worked at Valiant. Shockingly, Valiant appears to be going out of business. Obviously, I'm talking about Heather Antos, and here to talk to me about the incompetence of Heather Antos and why we're getting shitty stories within comic books is Aaron Sparrow. How you doing, Aaron?
Doing well. Doing better than IDW, Heather's current employer.
Well, everybody's doing better than Heather's current employer. Then you're going to get bad comic books out of there. And one of the reasons is she does not understand storytelling. This was the big tweet, got me percolating on just how incompetent IDW has to be, Valiant and Marvel, just to hire this person. When is the trope of men using women to advance their personal plot lines going to die out? What is it, Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy kind of thing?
Well, it's definitely Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy.
First of all, she's just parroting what Gail Simone has said in the past, but it's a complete misunderstanding of what makes a character in a story relatable. Having stakes that the reader, the consumer, the viewer can understand and can kind of empathize with makes the story more powerful and builds up tension and stuff like that. Putting someone's loved one, whether it be their mother, their wife, their sister, their kids or something, in harm's way to motivate the hero is something everybody in this world can actually understand. There's a reason that's been a part of storytelling tropes since the beginning of time.
No, absolutely. It's, when you're dealing with fiction, and especially, masculine fiction or heroic fiction, there's nothing as a man that is more frightening to you, that cuts you to your core as your loved ones being threatened, not being able to protect the people that you care about. You add on the extra layer in this heroic fiction of the deeds that you do and the people that you oppose causing harm to come to people that you love, and that ups the stakes even more. It's why it's why Aunt May being in trouble, a villain finding out Peter Parker's secret identity and going after Mary Jane, going after, his friends at the Daily Bugle. It's not just women, just anybody that he cares about. The idea of a villain going after them because of what you did, there's an extra layer of tension and of dramatic storytelling there.
How did we get to a place where someone got promoted twice to senior editor, got promoted to senior editor at Valiant, got promoted to senior editor at IDW, doesn't understand these basic, very, very basic storytelling concepts, especially in the realm of like the hero's journey, superhero storytelling kind of tropes?
I have no idea. And this just doesn't go for, obviously comic books is a male character dominated field, but this trope should also work if you've got a female lead, a straight female lead, or even a lesbian female lead going after the loved one. If it's a lesbian character, obviously you're still putting a woman in harm's way to advance the main character's plot. But if you reverse it, if it's a straight woman who's your lead character, let's say you're telling a Captain Marvel story and she's dating a guy and a villain goes after that guy. Yeah, goes after Rhodey. Now, theoretically, Rhodey should be able to take care of himself, but often the men are emasculated to the point in female written books right now where to the point where they're ineffective. So you could put Rhodey in that danger. You could slot him in there, and you could advance Carol's story. It tells you something about the character. It allows you to inform their fears on a deep psychological level, and it's just good storytelling. So the trope's not going to be ending anytime soon, Heather, and thank God for that, because we'll still have decent stories, unlike a lot of the ones that we've been getting.
At this point in time, you would think you would have to understand these concepts to be in the comic book industry, but it kind of makes sense when you look at the lack of storycraft kind of across the board, not just on the indies, but at Marvel and DC as well. You have just an entire cadre, a generation of comic book editors that probably have never written a successful story in their life. That's where we get stuff like that Thor. Remember when Jane Foster was Thor? And Titania, like they're going to fight, and Titania's like, oh my goodness, I've never had seen a woman hero defend or fight me before. I'm so happy that you've beaten me. And you're like, what the fuck is this? I'm
gonna surrender to you because it's just so nice to see, sisters doing it for themselves, or whatever the dialogue was. Meanwhile, Titania has fought She-Hulk so many times. It's not understanding the characters. It's writing from agenda. It's writing from just these stupid things that these people learned in college and trying to apply them to the job that they're in. It's activism. It's not storytelling, and it's complete garbage. It's no wonder that we're we're getting terrible stories from the industry right now with these people, not even understanding basic storytelling tropes.
Well, we did see Rob Liefeld recently. He guess he went on to Facebook and was kind of like outing some of the people that he'd worked with in the past. Well, specifically younger writers and creators saying, hey, listen, I can't work with this generation of creators. They don't know what they're doing. Are you experiencing those same type of issues that Rob Liefeld was talking about, but with younger editors yourself?
I haven't had that experience too much. I'm fortunate to work with, the younger people that I do work with come in and they want to learn. So they're open to idea. They're not coming in with a bunch of preconceived notions of how things are supposed to be and, making demands. They're actually wanting to learn and learn the way that these jobs work and the way that storytelling works and the way that producing comics works. So I've been very fortunate. I also would not hire anybody probably that young unless they, really had a maturity level that was,
Heather's in her 30s, right?
Yeah, but 30s, 30s right now young. Seems to be the
figured out by now.
Well, this is also the problem of being in the bubble, being in the bubble of people who are only like you, only communicating to people like you, not having worked a real job. I know artists that are pushing 50 and, they've never worked a real job and, they have no idea what the real world is like. And they just run their mouth and, you're like, you do know this and this and this, right? And then they're like, what? And then they get mad. Instead of like absorbing new information, they get mad that they were proven to not know what they were talking about, and they dig their heels in deeper. So it's just we're going through a real rough time in society right now as far as people's level of intelligence and critical thinking.
Well, I'd like to blame Joe Quesada for all this. He's the one that actually went out there and hired Gail Simone after that stupid fridging article, which apparently was really deep, even though, people have used the protagonist loved one as a plot device for their stories and stakes and stories. But apparently that was so deep he had to hire her to work at Marvel Comics and basically destroyed an entire generation of prospective female comic book writers.
I guess so. I mean, it was a dumb thesis then. It's a dumb thesis now. Obviously characters need to be under threat. That's what adds dramatic tension to stories. So, we need to continue these tropes. We need to double down. We need to, I don't think, I don't agree with the idea of fridging characters, like not letting them have their own agency and be fully developed characters. But I do think that every now and then you got to kill somebody off, and it's got to be shocking because you got to keep readers guessing. That's just interesting storytelling.
Aaron, have you ever gone out of your way to maybe upset the fail whale herself and went out and fridged a character yourself? Maybe old Darkwing?
It's funny. There was a character that was fridged in Darkwing. It wasn't my decision. It was largely the way that things were going at Boom, where we were ghostwriting, and then it was going to the writer that was taking credit for it, and he was like rearranging things. And he didn't understand Morgana. Well, I mean, he didn't really understand any of the characters, but he especially didn't understand how to write Morgana. So he just wrote her out by like kind of like killing her off. And it's a decision that I never disagreed with. And when we did the definitively dangerous edition.
You never agreed with because you said disagreed with.
Oh yeah, it's a decision that I never agreed with and wouldn't have done if I had complete control of that story. So even when we did the definitively dangerous edition, which was the omnibus that collected all those stories and restored the scripts the way I wanted it, I still had to deal with that. So, I just worked to give the character more agency and make it more her decision, sacrificing herself and just kind of, building that up. But,
still. Are you defending the fail whale here?
No, not at all. I'm just saying that, like, there's a good reason for things. And, in the course, Ron Mars has taken, and don't get me into a position where I have to defend Ron Mars as a person. But, back when he wrote those Green Lantern stories, that was a shocking moment. That was a great moment. As a reader, that really hit me to my core because it was like, Kyle Rayner immediately comes to face with the dangers, the horrors that he's unleashed by becoming Green Lantern. In that sometimes there's a psychopath who, to strike at you, will hurt your loved ones, and stuffed his girlfriend into a refrigerator. It was horrifying, as it should be. It should be a horrifying moment. Nobody read that and was like, yeah, good. Glad she got stuffed into a refrigerator. Everybody was horrified.
It's weird with like modern editors and writers and stuff. I don't think they understand why things work. I think they realize when things work, and they can only take maybe like the most surface level understanding of why a character works in a story. Like we go to Alien. Obviously, Ripley is a heroine, badass heroine. Everyone's rooting for Ripley. It's not just because she's a badass and she can go out and kill aliens. It's because of why she's trying to kill Aiden. It's because it's like her maternal instincts taking over when she discovers Newt, and she needs to get this girl off of the fucking spaceship and out of danger. And that was her motivation. And that's why you can kind of relate to who Ripley is. The same thing in Terminator. Sarah Connor is a badass character, and yes, she one-handed pumped shotgun thing and was shooting Terminators and stuff, but she's solely motivated by needing to protect her son. That's something I can relate to. That's something the women can relate to. Everyone can relate to that. You can't just make a badass, super powerful female character and expect that to be really cool. They have to be ingrained with motivation that makes the character tick. And I don't think any current writers, like at Marvel or DC, can even understand the basic level of comprehension of why Ripley or Sarah Connor works.
You know, there's such a disconnect, too, from the two examples that you cite. You know, the reason that Ripley works is she has to rise to the occasion. The reason that Sarah Connor works is because she has to rise to the occasion. Neither one of them starts out as a badass. Sarah Connor is actually kind of soft and squishy when we first meet her. She's a waitress. She's kind of like, you know, kind of directionless. You know, she's trying to figure out her life. She can't even balance her checkbook, I think is a line in the movie. You know, she doesn't have a lot going on. And she's thrust into this situation where she has to rise to the occasion. By the time we see her in Terminator 2, she has like taught herself all, you know, she's gone and she's anybody that she can learn from. She has studied under them to become this badass. And that's why we love Sarah Connor. Ripley, she just starts off as a space trucker. Basically, those people are all blue collar workers. But she has to rise to the occasion. She has to defeat this thing, get off the ship, and then later she has to make the heroic decision to go back and face her fears. That's what makes her a compelling character. Those are things that we can relate to. You get a character like MCU Captain Marvel. Oh, well, she was great all the time. It was just that the men were holding her back. She doesn't really have to struggle. She just has to realize how awesome she was from the beginning. That's not interesting. That's not a character. That just resonates with empty people that want everything handed to them. They don't want to put in the work. You know, they just want to think that they're great from the very beginning, and it's just all this oppression that's holding them back. No, to succeed, you have to put in the work, and that's what most people identify with, and that's good storytelling.
Yeah, it's crazy that WWF, which everyone likes to kind of look down upon, is like, oh, that circus sideshow that they do in wrestling. I guess it's WWE now. But you have Roman Reigns, and he is Captain Marvel. He's great at everything. Just ask him. And he tells everyone, you better acknowledge me. No one stays in my way. But the WWE understands he's a bad guy. They don't act like he's the good guy in the story. You're wanting to pay to see someone beat him in the ring because he's such an asshole. But in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, somehow Captain Marvel is the new big thing. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
No, I wanted to see Jude Law punk her out and just like take her down a notch. And her, like, that character needs to be, you can have a character who's cocky and who thinks that they're the shit and thinks that they're amazing. And then what you have to do is you have to put him against somebody who completely
like
humiliates
Top Gun
them.
incident with the Iceman, or he loses Goose and he loses his confidence. Can he get back in the cockpit? Can he get back there one more time?
Exactly. It's, that's something that people can relate to. It's like you lost something, you suffered a setback. How do you come back from it? That's what defines a character. That's what defines us as human beings. But, we've got a soft, squishy generation that thinks that, everything should be handed to them. And they don't know how to translate, these things to compelling stories, because there's not a compelling story in just thinking that you deserve things.
Yeah, especially with the female characters. It just feels like you can't do anything interesting with the characters. They can't be complex. They can't have to overcome anything. They just have to be put on the paper, fully fleshed out paragons, which is the most boring thing in the world. A paragon is just supposed to start your journey. He's not supposed to end it with you. He's got to leave at some point, and you got to make the journey for yourself. But we're just not getting that. And I think senior editors like a Heather Antos, can't understand why you have to put people in jeopardy in the protagonist's life to tell a story. It's a big reason. There's just no quality right there.
You've got to be able to step outside yourself and look at things from a perspective that's not yours. The best lesson that you can learn in life is that you're not right most of the time, or you're only half right. None of us have all the information all at once. So take a movie like Atomic Blonde with great movie. Great female character, great lead. Charlize Theron does a crazy great job. And what they do is they lean into her being skilled. She's going up against guys that are much bigger than her that should be able to destroy her. But through her smarts and her skill and using her environment, she's able to overcome those obstacles. if this were a movie, you know, or something that's coming out of like the MCU or coming out of, you know, the current day politics, Charlize Theron would just be beating the shit out of these 250-pound muscle-bound guys because she's a woman and she's awesome. You know, it's a better character because she has to think and she has to, you know, use her advantages. You know, I just watched Prey, and you know, it's neither as great as people are praising or as bad as people are you know, are capping on it. It's fine. It's a middle of the road Predator movie. It's better than the AVPs. It's better than that last Shane Black film. It's solidly in the middle. But one of the reasons that the character works is because at no point is she going toe to toe with the Predator and matching his strength. All of her fighting is quick. You know, she's fighting some fur trappers, like these big French fur trappers at one point. And she's quick, stick and move, use the environment, stab, 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 get away. Don't let them get a hold of her. You know, she's using her skills, her agility, things that would make sense if she has to go up against these big burly guys. And the story is better for it.
No comic book publisher is better for hiring Heather Antos. There's not a better example than Valiant Comics, a very small publisher that had a really, really hardcore fan base that is essentially going away. It appears Valiant won't make it to 2023. They hired Heather Antos. They promoted Heather Antos. Pure incompetence the entire time. Sales dwindled the entire time she was there, and now we're seeing what happened in the end.